And what is up, boys and girls? We are live talking Fallout from tonight's episode of TNA Impact Wrestling on Spike TV for June 5th, 2014. What is up? It's your pal right here, Black Avenger, aka the Black Aswell, Lee Sanders. Thank you so much for joining us live tonight. Hey, if you guys are looking for actual TNA wrestling footage, you might want to do yourself a huge favor and see what you might be able to find on TNA's YouTube channel at TNA Impact Wrestling. Of course, if you can't find what you're looking for on their respected channel, you can definitely see some stuff on ImpactWrestling.com as far as exclusive videos, photos, the works. So check that out. We are like about, what, a week plus away from the Slammiversary pay-per-view event that's going to be coming up, and of all the weekends that it's going to be going down on, this one is going to be happening on Father's Day. So, whew. But you know, talk about the tough competition that TNA Wrestling had tonight, not to mention NXT as well. And we should point out, as a few of you all had some very good observation notes as you all were paying attention to social media, neither TNA or NXT trended at any time tonight. Both shows, both products, they did not trend at any time during their respective times on the air. So that's how much, that's the magnitude, if you will, of how many Americans are checking out that game one of the NBA Finals. Now, as much as I love basketball, I actually say, you know what? I'm actually going to kick back and devote my whole 2-hour time span to TNA. I did not flip the channels to check out the NBA game, none of that. If anything, I said to myself, you know what, I'll see the highlights on Sports Center, or if I really want to watch the game, I'll watch the encore on the NBA channel and everything. So I can definitely kick on back and just really talk about the TNA product tonight. That's dedication right there, and you guys know how much of a basketball fan I am. To be able to just say, bump basketball, I'm watching TNA, that's dedication right there. And I definitely want to get you guys involved on this episode. You can do so a number of ways. You can post those comments down below. I'll get you all part of this episode. You can also interact with us on Twitter at the RCWR Show. Hit us up on Facebook at Infinity One Productions. You know, before we open up and talk about Fallout from Impact Wrestling, you know, I love you guys tremendously. I really do. I love you guys that check us out every single week, whether you check us out on the downloads, our live radio shows, or you're checking us out live when we do our YouTube pieces, or maybe you come on back after our YouTube live web shows are complete. You know, you scoop it up that way. However you do it, man. You know, I love you guys. I love when I get to interact with you all on social media. As for the most part, 95% of the time it comes to social media, especially Twitter, I'm definitely kicking back, interacting with you all. You know, there's one thing I don't like. Or actually, there's two things I don't like as far as social media goes. Number one, I don't like when we have people that know I'm not a big fan of spoilers, especially when it comes to the TNA product. I'm not a big fan of giving little leaks of what's going to be coming up for the next batch of episodes, because we know how Impact Wrestling is rolling. They're basically taping episodes weeks in advance and everything. And the way things are looking right now, unless a new deal with Spike TV is going to be announced pretty soon, I mean, we could be seeing a scenario play out where after September, it's kind of like, what exactly is going to be going on with TNA Wrestling? Are they still going to be going on the road somewhere or what? But in either case, I don't like talking about spoilers. And then the other thing that I can't really tolerate is people that assume. Perfect case right here. Now, apparently, I don't know what the hell is going on, but usually I tell you guys, if you have a question or a comment you want to put out there during our live shows, I give you all the links, the little cheap plugs that you can kick on back and interact with us and everything. And once in a blue moon, I see that you guys, as we're live, you'll send something our way on Twitter or whatever. And last time we were on the air, I really didn't see hardly that much any activity coming in, particularly on Twitter. But some person, Connor, we're calling you out now, so you know when we're talking about you, because we call you out. That's how I operate here. Connor decided that he had this idea that something was going to be playing about in tonight's TNA main event match because of something that he had saw last week. And very politely, I said to him, I said, well, you know what? If that is the case, well, you just kind of ruined the experience for me a little bit. Do me a favor, just at this point, keep cool, keep your thoughts to yourself, enjoy the match. And he kept saying, sorry, 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 blah, 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 blah. There's a point I'm making here. Bear with me. We're about to get to it. So, again, he tried to bring it up, told him to let it be, just enjoy the match, enjoy it for what it was worth. And then he comes right back and says something like, and that's what you get for saying that my Trojan horse comment was stupid. And I have no fucking clue what the hell this guy was talking about. Like, literally, I have no clue. I'm like, okay, this person just became an ass. And let me tell you something. If you want to get on our blacklist, that's a hell of a way to do it, is to assume that you know what we're reading on our respected Twitter account, and you don't have the password and all that to see all the activity that's kicking in. So it's like, even if I were to call somebody's comment on social media stupid, you have no idea if I'm talking about you. You don't. You're assuming, and when you assume, let's home in on those keywords, folks. Ass. You make an ass out of yourself, and if you want to get on our blacklist, unfortunately, that's how you do it. So I can't stress this enough. Please don't assume the worst. You know, if I have a problem with something that you say, whether it be good, when you guys give good praise, I call you out. When you say something bad, I still call you out. And if you really get under my skin, just like this one little knucklehead did, I will definitely go out of my way to call you out. So, Connor, you assumed that I called you out last week and said that your little Trojan horse, and I don't even know what the hell you're talking about, buddy. I don't know. I didn't even read anything like that. You assume the worst. When you assume, you get blacklisted. So you're probably going to be checking this out, and you're probably going to be like, dislike, dislike, dislike. But you know what? It's all good, man. Word of advice, don't be an ass. I would appreciate those that would rather come right out and ask me rather than assume. And on that note, let's talk about TNA, Impact Wrestling. I know it's like, how the hell do you go from that to TNA? I just had to get it out there. You know how we do it over here. We always keep it honest, insightful, and what's the third one, folks? Say it with me. Interactive. We've been doing it like that since 2011, so one-man band over here, but we have some breaking news as far as the future of the RCWR show goes, as we're going to be welcoming on board a new broadcast partner. If you guys haven't checked out the announcement yet, you definitely want to go scoop up our Tuesday night edition of the RCWR show, available on the downloads right now. We'll probably actually put up that breaking news on our YouTube channel right after we get done with this. We're less than a week and a half away from TNA Slammiversary, and you know what? I must admit, I really had enjoyed this episode of Impact Wrestling. It had a little bit of sentimental value behind it for me for a particular reason, and that's because, believe it or not, we know TNA Wrestling has been around for about 12 years now or something to that effect, but you know, it's been 10 years since Impact Wrestling has been on television. That's right, 10 years since TNA Impact Wrestling has been on television. Remember, it all began with Fox Sports 1, boys and girls, and here we are 10 years later. Impact Wrestling still going strong, man, still going strong. This episode was pretty solid. I love the way that things had kicked off, as we had saw Samoa Joe come out, and pretty much he kicked things off by calling out money, power, respect. That's right, MVP stable. We saw MVP, Bobby Lashley, Kenny King come on now, trying to see just what exactly the Samoan Bulldozer Machine had wanted. Samoa Joe pretty much had wanted a match, if you will, or rather he was a little bit disgusted as far as some of the things that's been happening since MVP's been charged, since he's shown his true colors and everything. and he just wanted to understand from MVP's mouth himself just why exactly was he conducting himself the way that he was and everything. Conversation had quickly soon turned to MVP bringing to Samoa Joe's attention that, hey, look, last you were here in TNA Wrestling, you had an opportunity to have a match for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, but you decided to take your ball and roll out. So as far as I'm concerned, yeah, I tried to hook you up, but you rolled out. So as far as MVP's argument goes, he tried to be that equal opportunities provider to Samoa Joe, but he didn't accept it. Samoa Joe will counter right back and basically challenge all three of the Money, Power, Respect stable to a brawl down right there on the spot. We would then see Austin Aries show up. He tried to get involved in this whole thing. MVP had set something up real good at this point. He basically set up a match between Samoa Joe, Austin Aries, where it was contract versus contract. Yeah, folks, somebody was going to be fired. Yes. Winner keeps their job. They continue on. They got a full-length contract with TNA Wrestling. The loser goes home. And you know what? As soon as I heard that, I just could not help but say to myself, is Bruce Pritchard maybe like a consultant for this episode or something? Because it just seemed like for me, during Bruce Pritchard's tenure, we kept seeing people get fired and all this other silly crap. Feasts are fired and all this silly crap, and I'm just kind of looking at that cringe, and especially due to the fact that it's happening to two of my most favorite guys in the TNA promotion. I'm saying, no, I don't want to see either one of these two guys roll out, and I'm sure many of you guys were probably operating the same way with that mentality. Let's talk about that match, though. Eventually we had saw that match come about, and leading up to it, we had saw referee Brian Hebner get a pep talk from MVP saying, look, you need to make sure that you do the right thing right here. You need to make sure you call this match right down the middle. I don't want to see this match end and count outs, disqualifications. I need to see a decisive victor no matter what. So a lot of pressure right there on young Hebner. We would eventually see EY, Eric Young, TNA World Heavyweight Champion, and Bully Ray approach the young Hebner and say, look, you got to do the right thing here. Both of those two guys, they got mouths to feed. They got bills to pay. And Hebner was like, look, I'm in the same position as well. I got mouths to feed. I got to provide for my family. I got to do what I got to do. And he walked away from them. EY and Bully Ray both coming to the same conclusion. Well, if he's got to do what he's got to do, then we're going to do what we have to do. So let's go on ahead and let's talk about that contract versus contract match. The match started off very good. It lasted about maybe, I want to say, almost 10 minutes. We saw Hebner try to do a count here and there, but nothing really came as far as Victor goes. Looked like at a couple of key points something was about to go down, but then we saw Bully Ray and EY show up. EY had managed to pull the leg of Hebner as he was making a count at one point, and Bully Ray had followed that up by sucker punching Hebner in the face, knocking him out, apologizing to him. EY, Bully Ray, both taking turns on the microphone saying, hey, sorry, this had to be done. It's just wrong on so many levels to do this type of match with both of these two guys with so much at stake. MVP would come down and he would actually threaten Bully Ray saying, hey, you think I'm playing some type of a game right here? Do you want to be fired? Do you really want to be fired? And Bully Ray just kind of throwing caution into the wind and saying, you know what, I've got something a little bit more interesting than what you tried to do right here, MVP. How about me, Eric Young, Austin Aries, Samoa Joe, take you on? And then he just started saying piece of crap 1, piece of crap 2, piece of crap 3, basically saying he wanted to take on MVP, Ethan Carter III, Bobby Lashley, Kenny King, and a blockbuster 8-man tag team match, but not just any 8-man tag team match. It's a First Blood 8-man tag team match. And at first, MVP was not for this. He actually was like, no, hell no. I make the rules around here. But we saw Kenny King felt a little froggy as he jumped and said, hey, you guys are on. MVP was actually having a verbal lashing with Kenny King as they made their way to the backstage area. Now, a couple of segments down the road, we would see Money, Power, Respect cross paths with EC3 and say to him, hey, look, we definitely need you to be on point right here. Don't disappoint us. EC3 reminded them that he's undefeated, and we should kind of home in on that, folks. EC3 is undefeated when it comes to singles matches. Let's just make sure we really set the record clear on that one. He's undefeated when it comes to singles matches. We'll talk a little bit more about that main event match in just a little bit, but for now, let's also talk about key points from this episode of Impact Wrestling, and we'll also hook you guys up with the latest in TNA wrestling news. Nice stuff to talk about since last we were on the air with you all. And hey, if you're enjoying our recap and review so far, please go out of your way to make sure you give this episode a thumbs up, putting a thumbs up down below. You can also share this piece by Google Plusing it, tweeting it, Facebooking it, as it's one of the many ways you can spread a good word about our content. Let's continue on. You know, MVP, this would not be the only time he would be power crazy, as really, and you know what, I must say, because we talked about this over the past couple of weeks off and on, but I really didn't home in on it, which was, you know, if MVP is in this position where he's the day-to-day operations director and all that, then let's really see him use his power at its absolute maximum. You know what I'm saying? And we kind of got a little bit of a taste of that as he had put the Wolves, Davey Richards, Eddie Edwards in a match against one another. And this was a match where they actually had to really go at it at one another. Not no little silly exhibition, nothing like that. They actually had to go for it. Go for that brass ring. You know, this was the real deal, because if they failed to deliver a real deal type of match, they were going to be stripped of their tag team titles, as the tag titles would then be awarded to the Bromans. So a lot going on right there with that particular match. We actually saw Kenny King oversee it, talking a real nice game on a microphone. Basically, it's kind of funny now that I think about how Kenny King was kind of operating, as he was up towards the ramp area, basically saying, yeah, do that, yeah, come on, yeah, you know what I want to see, yeah, you know, he's basically kind of being like a black cheerleader, if you will, or whatever, as these two guys were just messing the hell out of each other. And you know, I thought for what it was worth, you know, it was a solid contest. I'm trying to think how the finish had came about. I don't want to say it was a disqualification. It all happened so fast. One of the guys had picked up the victory, but Kenny King, I don't think he was satisfied with it, or maybe it might have been a case where the match had ended in a double pin. I don't know, but I remember Kenny King coming down, and he got in the ring, and he said, no, the match is not going to end like this. I want to see you guys punch. I want to see you guys kick. It's not going to end this way. This match needs to restart. And, you know, we saw the Wolves, they basically attacked Kenny King. And so you see that, and the main question that you're saying to yourself is, okay, well, it's still like the first hour of Impact Wrestling. Are we maybe going to see some type of a position come about where Kenny King relays to MVP what had came about from that tag match, and the champions are stripped of their tag titles? Like, is that what's going to happen? And unfortunately, that never came about. We never saw a follow-up to that. It was just kind of like one of those cliffhangers, you know? And I mean, don't get me wrong, I like those type of cliffhangers that, you know what I'm saying, when you watch a wrestling show, you get one of those type of cliffhangers that have you go, okay, I definitely need to check out next week to see what's going to happen, because the way that they had set this up, it's like you need to watch next week to see where this is going to go. And unfortunately, I didn't quite pick up that same vibe when I saw this segment play about. It was just basically kind of like, Okay, well, the fans are going to forget that because they're going to be kind of high on what the Wolves had did to Kenny King. So let's just move on with the rest of the show. That was pretty much the gist that I had got. Now I'm hoping that next week, because as we said at the beginning, TNA, they pretty much tape all these episodes like in weeks time span and all that, weeks ahead of time. So I'm really hoping that maybe next week they'll cross those X's out and everything. To not do so definitely looks kind of bad. That's maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I might be overanalyzing that. I'm not sure. What do you guys think about that? Post your comments down below. Let me know. We saw Bram take on Willow, aka Jeff Hardy's alternate ego. Am I the only one that is still looking for some type of a storyline in setting up Willow? I've said this off and on for the past several weeks, and I'm going to continue to say it until I'm blue in the face. And again, that's kind of hard to do given my complexion. But I'm going to keep saying it until it happens, which is, okay, can we please get some type of an explanation on why Jeff Hardy has turned into this Willow character? What exactly made him snap? What exactly made him become this psychedelic, ecstasy-looking, freak-me-out type of clown that should be with the Menage a Trois group? All right? And you guys know the Menage a Trois group that I'm talking about. What's their name? The Majerio, the Majestic, the Menagerie, the Bragerie, the Underray, whatever the hell their names are. I call them Menage a Trois. Speaking of which, Menage a Trois shirt coming soon from the RCWR show. But no, seriously, I couldn't help but just continue to say to myself, what is up with this Willow character, And it's just so infuriating because, like, I don't know if you guys have been peeping it out, but when you go check out who all is being promoted for the TNA events that's going to be coming up in the New York City area, coming up in June, and then again in August when they come back out there, there's like no mention of Jeff Hardy. I don't even think there's a mention of freaking Willow. If there is a mention of Willow, folks are probably like, who the hell is that? And they're probably thinking of the little midget with Val Kilmer from that movie back in the 80s or whatever, But I'm having a hard time really processing how Jeff Hardy got to this point of where he is right now, because it's like last time we saw Jeff Hardy, he pretty much said, I will be back when the sky is clear again, when good has triumphed over evil. And next thing you know, we just see this weird guy show up with a mask and a umbrella, which you can now get at Impact Wrestling or TNAshop.com. But no, Bram had took on Willow. Magnus was watching. Once again, Bram trying to bring out that mean streak in Magnus, trying to bring back the old Magnus that he used to team up with years ago that he once knew. And we saw Bram at one point go for some metal-like type of object. Seems to be his thing nowadays. Seems like ever since this guy's come up to the TNA roster, he's got this obsession with using a small metal piece from the turnbuckle or whatever. We saw him getting ready to go to the body of Willow, but Magnus had injected himself in there, actually took that metal piece from the turnbuckle from the hands of Bram and started attacking Willow with it. And the way it's looking right now, at least according to the commentators, Magnus, he's finally dug down deep. He's finally brought out that old side of himself that only Bram was accustomed to, that only Bram had saw from years prior. So honestly, I thought that segment did not play out the way that it was supposed to. It just really came off very weak. I just really was not invested into it. Very curious to see, though. I'm not taking a big crap all over it because I'm still trying to be reserved and see exactly where this is all going to be going and everything. But, I just felt that it would have been better. I think they did Willow wrong. I got to go back to Willow one more time. I really feel that TNA Wrestling messed up big time with Willow. Just how Christopher Daniels was able to do his thing as Daniels, Kazarian, Bad Influence, and then he was Suicide for a hot minute, and then he did Curryman for a good minute. I mean, at several points, you saw Daniels wrestle 2, 3 times in one night as those characters I just mentioned. I really feel that TNA Wrestling, they dropped the ball right here with the Willow character, because I feel Jeff Hardy should have been doing some type of double duty. It just really would have kind of made sense. Now, some could bring up the argument, well, Lee, remember, Jeff Hardy said he'd be back when goods triumphed over evil and all this other stuff. But, for a bright moment there, at least when MVP was coming off as a good guy early on, that was a perfect opportunity right there to have a face Jeff Hardy come back and say, hey, it looks like things have turned around. I'm back in TNA. I'm back for the long haul. Seems like everything's back to normal now. And then you could have done this whole thing with Willow. Here's the reason why I keep going back to this whole Willow Jeff Hardy. For me, this match didn't do anything as far as to really elevate Magnus, I feel. And the reason being is because Magnus beat Willow, which is an independent, sensational gimmick that a lot of hardcore Jeff Hardy fans are aware of. Only the purists and hardcore Jeff Hardy fans really can be connected with that gimmick. You know what I'm saying? Now, picture that person that's changing the channel, and they're just channel surfing, and they see Magnus, and they're taking on some weird, strange looking guy with black and white face paint and all that, or a mask or whatever, and they're like, what the hell is this? And they're probably going to change the channel. Now, they may sit in on that little spot for a couple of minutes and listen to the commentators to see what all they're saying and everything, but sometimes if the commentators can't reel you in, not to say you're probably going to change the channel, especially if you already think the match looks weak. So if the match looks weak, and the commentators are coming in and they're not really helping you feel sold on what you're watching, guess what? You're probably going to change the channel. So for me, that particular match probably would have had a little bit more magnitude if it would have been Magnus taking on Jeff Hardy. Think about the long history that Jeff Hardy has had in TNA. X amount of times that he's been the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. Talk about a really great resume that Mike Tenay and Taz really could have built up, and Magnus taking on Jeff Hardy. But instead, you kind of had to go with a watered-down version of Jeff Hardy / Willow. What do you guys think about that? Put your comments down below. Let me know what you think. But that's just really how I kind of looked at that. That segment really did not do anything for Magnus. I'm hoping that going forward, we're going to see some bigger things happen. I know it's still slow and it's burning and it's still just taking off, but I must admit it's looking rather shaky right now. Funny spot had came about with the bromance, as we had saw Robbie E. Tell his bros this funny story about how he is scared of clowns, apparently, as he does not like Crazy Steve. And I couldn't help but take a really hard chuckle at that. I couldn't help but say to myself, my God, you bet not let Crazy Steve hear that, because he's going to go McDonald's and give you a Happy Meal big time on that note. Well, we had saw the bromance later on in the night. They had a little segment going on. Wasn't a match, at least that's not how it looked like. It basically like DJ Zima was just playing music, and bromance were coming out to talk some hot game. And we saw the Menage a Trois come out, the Freak, that beautiful brunette that just does that thing on the ropes exceptionally well. Reminds me of some crazy times I had in high school. But anyway, anyway, folks, no, seriously, we had saw both of these two teams collide and everything, and Robbie E basically had said to Mike Knox, hey, man, get your clown away from me, all that other stuff. And soon the conversation had turned to Mike Knox's lovely lady, as bromance, they liked what they were seeing in her, and then all of a sudden a little bit of a spat had broke out and everything. and we basically saw the bromans run with their tail tucked between their legs. So that is one that's going to need to be continued. I'm sure those two stables will probably collide at the Slammiversary pay-per-view. We'll know a little bit more about that as that event draws more closer. We had saw Gunner and Samuel Shaw have a little bit of tea time at the Asylum as Gunner was playing cards with Samuel Shaw. Even had managed to get a hold of his sketch pad. Looks like they're bonding very well. You know, Gunner was recently quoted in a interview where he was talking about where exactly he thinks this whole program with Samuel Shaw is going, and he played it up very well. I thought this is exactly what he had to say right here, and this is a direct quote. And by the way, if you want to check this out, we'll actually post it on our Facebook page. But this interview that he did was conducted with Aaron Alster of the Baltimore Sun. Here's what he had to say. Direct quote, "I don't know what to expect. Sam's a little loopy. He's a creepy guy. There's something wrong with him." And on the show, he got committed by Ken Anderson. So I'm going in there and trying to talk some sense into him and see what's in his head. We're just starting that segment, so we'll see where it goes. Sam's an awesome young talent, and he's hungry. Everything he does is wholehearted, and he does it well. Nice way to kind of go a little bit in and out, but mostly out on talking about the whole Samuel Shaw thing and all that. I definitely have liked the continuation of this storyline. I called this weeks ago, like as early as when we had first saw Gunner cross paths with Samuel Shaw at the Asylum. I had laid out exactly how this was probably going to be playing out and everything. I'm enjoying that so far. How about you guys? Let me know. We had saw that James Storm, Mr. Anderson, they had cross paths with one another. Hilarious segment right here. This was Ken Anderson at his best, folks. I must admit, I haven't had such a hearty laugh like this in a good while. I mean, Ken Anderson, he went retro right here. He came out dressed up like a cowboy, had the whole sheriff badge going on and everything. Great funny spot. Came out talking about some, I like drinking beer. He was doing one hell of an impression of a Texan. Let me put it to you that way. It damn sure was not the cowboy James Storm. It was just a damn cowboy that he was doing. And we had James Storm come out, and he pretty much challenged Mr. Anderson to a match. And Mr. Anderson said, yeah, if you want to get it on again, let's do it. We actually saw the two of those guys go at it right then and there. End result was Storm owning Anderson with a last call super kick. So way it's looking right now, these guys are going to be getting it on at Slammiversary as the challenge was sent out. Once again, it's going to be James Storm taking on Ken Anderson. You know, just because they're going to be out there in Texas and everything, I wonder if they might be able to do a bullhorn match or whatever one of those type of matches that they call it, where you got the I think it's the cowbell, and you got it wrapped around your hand, and there's a long piece of rope, and the other person's got the other cowbell. I wonder if they could do one of those type of matches. That would be pretty freaking awesome, especially if it's all nice and bloody and everything. Oh, that would be lovely to see that go down. We saw Angelina Love defend her Knockouts title successfully against Madison Rayne after getting a little bit of help from Velvet Sky, causing a little bit of interference. And once again, you know, we got to look at this right here. Madison Rayne, leading up to this match, she had cross paths with the beautiful and the lovely Brittany. And she said to Brittany, look, no matter what, do not get involved in my business. Do not come at ringside. Now, eventually, as all this craziness was going on, and we saw Velvet Sky in those last few seconds get involved to help Angelina with the retain, Brittany was standing right there conveniently. She could have easily done something, but Brittany did not, as Madison Rayne had got pinned, dirty pin at that, 1, 2, 3, Angelina Love retains. We would see Madison Rayne catch up with Brittany in a backstage segment where Madison said, hey, what happened? You saw exactly what had went down. Why didn't you help me? Why didn't you do something? Brittany told her straight up. She said, "You told me not to do anything, so that's exactly what I did." And she walked away from Madison. So it's kind of like, Madison, you can't have it both ways, honey. You got to choose, as that's probably the same situation that happens with a person that's let me not go there. That is like so wide open right there, because I'm still tripping over the lesbian segment that had happened last week. But I'm not going to even touch that, because I don't need no little kids going up to their parents going, "Mommy, what does that mean?" Anyway, we got one more match to talk about. It was that main event match, first blood match, as we saw the team of Austin Aries, Eric Young, Samoa Joe, Bully Ray take on MVP, Kenny King, Bobby Lashley, Ethan Carter the third. I liked the match during like the first, because I think it was on for like maybe about 20, 25 minutes. I liked the first, I would say 15 minutes or whatever, but towards the end it kind of started to get a little bit funky, because all of a sudden it just looked like it started to become a one-on-one type of deal or whatever. And I don't know, like, as I was getting ready to prepare for the show, at one point I look up and I just see it's down to Bully Ray and EC3, and I see Bully Ray just come in with the steel chain wrapped around his fist. Wham! Knocks out Ethan Carter the third. Ethan Carter is busted open. The team of Aries, Bully Ray, Samoa Joe, Eric Young pick up the victory. Post-match is where it got interesting, though, because in the backstage segment, we had saw Team MVP, or Money, Power, Respect, beat the holy hell out of Ethan Carter, and we saw Dixie Carter jump in there. And keep in mind, this wasn't the first time that Dixie had crossed paths with MVP during the night. There was one other time earlier in the night where once again she was trying to talk to MVP and say, "Look, you can't keep continuing to operate the way that you're doing. There's going to be hell to pay. I'm telling you, you and me, we can maybe work something out." And MVP wasn't trying to hear that. So in the end, we saw Dixie Carter show up and try to intervene on behalf of her nephew and say to MVP, "You're making a very serious mistake right here. I'm going to make sure that you pay severely for what you did. This is a Carter that you're touching." And pretty much MVP was like, "Look, if you're going to bring it, bring the ruckus, bring it," So it looks like officially Dixie Carter, MVP, they're going to be going at war. You can't help but wonder now if this maybe is going to make Dixie Carter try to align herself with the new TNA frontline, which consists of Bully Ray, EY, and the other crew. Only time will tell with regards to that. But overall, it felt like a rather decent episode of Impact Wrestling. If I could only point out, a couple of areas where it mainly seemed like it was kind of, I would have to say some of the matches, with the exception, no, actually, no, I'm not going to even say with the exception. All the matches, it really didn't have like a proper finish, like one of those, "Wow, that was a great match. We actually got like 15 minutes worth out of that." And it was exciting from beginning, middle to end. It was kind of like, "Here's these names. Sounds good, don't it? Don't you want to watch? All right, gather up now. Get the whole family together. Get your popcorn ready. Get in front of the TV. Get your drinks. Okay, here we go." And the match starts, and 5 minutes later, the match is like over. That was pretty much the kind of theme I was experiencing with tonight's episode. So overall, keeping all that in mind, I would definitely have to say tonight's episode, 1 to 10, I definitely have to give it a respected 6.5 this week. Very curious to see how things come about with next week's episode, as that's pretty much going to be setting up the Summerversary pay-per-view. Now, as far as TNA headlines go, not really too much else has been happening since last we were on the air with you guys. We already had told you guys about the whole 10-year anniversary of Impact Wrestling being on TV. In case you missed the news, though, it looks like one of the TNA events that's going to be in New York City is going to be dubbed Destination X on June 26, New York City, from the Manhattan Center. And looks like TNA also confirmed they'll be bringing back their Option C feature, where the current X Division champion will be able to exchange their X Division title for a shot at the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. Throw in the fact that you got the great Muda that's also going to be making an appearance there at that, not that event, but I think he's going to be showing up at one of those events. I don't think it's going to be at Destination X, although if it is going to be at Destination X, that's freaking solid, man. But yeah, you know, if you haven't gotten your tickets yet for that New York event, you want to do so now while it's still hot. We were talking about Brittany earlier. We definitely got to give her some mad props that she had won the Cauliflower Alley Award, I think for Best Female Wrestler or something like that. Congrats to her. Very good stuff right there. I saw the press release of that earlier today, and the press release was really awesome and chronicling her career and everything. And, you know, there's great concern about the main event match that's going to be coming up at Slammiversary between MVP and EY. As check this out. Apparently, over the weekend, MVP had injured himself at a UK wrestling event over for Preston City Wrestling, I believe the promotion is called. And basically, he did something weird with his knee. He got some MRI work done and everything. MVP feels that he legitimately may have kind of popped his knee or whatever, but the results that's in right now is a bit inconclusive, so he's getting more work done. Keeping in mind that Impact Wrestling tapes episodes in advance, TNA also has not released any type of a statement concerning the health of MVP, and as far as his participation goes in this main event match that's going to be coming up, you really can't help but wonder just what type of shape he may be in, if he's even going to do this match at all. You know, 9 times out of 10, we're probably going to hear some type of a scenario play out where maybe EY is going to have to defend that championship against Bobby Lashley. I mean, I think that's the best option that they can go with right now. Or if they really want to put possibly the title on MVP, then one solution I can think of is maybe they could do a MVP Bobby Lashley Kenny King triple threat match, or fatal 4-way match rather. Or better yet, now that I'm really kind of thinking about it, this is really an abuse of power. Let it be Money, Power, Respect take on MVP in a 3-on-1 handicap match, and everybody is banned from ringside. That means the new TNA Frontline 2.0, they can't interfere. If they do, they'll get fired, whatever like that. So, you know, maybe you can have some type of a scenario play about where that new TNA Frontline, they try to come up with another way to try to help EY retain his championship and also stick it to Money, Power, Respect. Just some early ideas I'm giving to you guys. It may happen, it may not, but you can't help but wonder what's going on with MVP right now. Of course, we're continuing to stay on top of that for you guys. Any new info that comes about, we'll definitely share it with you all right? And other than that, I'm trying to just think off the top of my head if there was anything else that kind of jumped out there at me as far as TNA headlines go. Dixie Carter, she had recently put out a very interesting tweet this week saying that Taryn Terrell basically is close to coming back. Who wants to see her come back? So it kind of follows up on what some of you all were saying last week as we all were trying to figure out what could possibly happen as far as that referee Stifler, and I can't believe that's his name, keeps getting distracted by the beautiful people and all that. Somebody had to say, you know, what a great opportunity to have Taryn Terrell come back in there, you know, since she's still a new mom and all. And you know what? The fact that Dixie Carter had mentioned Taryn Terrell, they must be very close. I wouldn't be too surprised if Terrell had made her return at Slammiversary next weekend. How about you? I mean, if I was a betting man, and I don't bet, but if I was a betting man, I'd put some money down for a Taryn Terrell return at Slammiversary. All right, let's get to what you guys have to say right here. We're going to look at your comments, take it from the bottom, and we'll work our way to the top. And again, if you guys got some interesting stuff you want to send our way, aside from posting those comments on YouTube here down below, you can also send some comments our way on Twitter at the RCWR Show. And boom, I'm going to start with Twitter. Make sure we show Twitter some love because I don't really check Twitter enough when we are doing this thing here. Let's see what's happening on Twitter. Going once, going twice on Twitter, and sold. I like that. It's nice and quiet on Twitter. That's good. Let's see what's going on YouTube here. Got a little bit of comments coming in. Let's see what we got here. I cannot pronounce that name, but I'm just going to say PSC. And you know who you talking about because you got a really wicked ass avatar from hell. So you definitely know I'm talking about you, PSC. Good point about Pritchard. Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm just saying it just really kind of seemed like a weird spot right there with Pritchard and all. War Gamer, what's up, buddy? The first blood match was the weakest finish to a blood match I've ever seen in a long time. Yeah, I kind of agree with you, man, because when I saw that, I mean, it had a lot of potential at first, especially like when the match first had came about. Because what time was it when it came on, guys? That was like at around, wherever you're on the East Coast. For us, I think that match came on like at around 10:34 or something like that. I'm saying to myself, hey, all right, so we're going to get like a half hour of a really damn good match. Yeah, it was pretty weak on a lot of levels. I would definitely agree with you on that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like what happened at the end and the way they kind of basically set up EC3 to fall on the sword and have money, power, respect, jump him and all that to really ignite the war between Dixie and MVP. But it's kind of like, was that really needed? Some will probably say yes, others will probably say no, but yeah, I agree. It's so weird too, man, because you think of all those names that was in that match, and I was really rooting that match on. I mean, I was putting the tweets out there. I said, man, we haven't seen a blockbuster main event match like this in a couple of years now. This is really good. Let's keep it rolling, you know? And, you know, after I saw how it was presented, and that's really how tonight's episode really kind of felt to me overall. I don't know if you guys would agree with me, but like overall, tonight's episode, it was just really kind of like, here's these names on paper, here's the type of matches that they're going to be involved in, and it's like you, the viewer, you're hearing it or you're reading it, and you're like, damn, that sounds like it's going to be a good episode. And then to see the week finishes pretty much for every single match, and you pretty much had the same redundant stuff going on as far as the knockouts go and all that. I mean, definitely that first blood match was very, very weak. Yeah, man, I agree with you on that. And again, very sad because you had all those big names involved. Bully Ray. I mean, you had multi-champions, multi-time champions at that, in that particular match, and it just fell so short there at the end. Jen, next 7. Show sucked the monkeys. You know what? Max Man, Dixie versus Money, Power, Respect should be great. Or rather, correction, it looks like Max Man is actually saying Dixie versus MVP should be great. Now, it may just be me, but for a month and a half, Braum and Magnus have just taken turns beating up Willow every week with the same result. Braum just says to Magnus, you've gone soft. It just seems pointless at this point. I laughed so hard when Robbie and the Bromans had their spot with the Menage a Trois and Mr. Anderson copied Storm. I haven't laughed that hard in a while. And the crowd deserves a notice for their rebels and sexy chants. Good show tonight. Yeah, the crowd was fairly decent tonight. I will say that much about the Impact crowd. Past several weeks, man, seems like a really good wrestling crowd has been showing up to these events, and it's definitely been helping make time fly by. I will say that much. This episode of Impact Wrestling, it wasn't dragging in any type of way. I was like pretty shocked when the first hour had actually flown by. I was like, whoa, you know. But yeah, I definitely feel a lot of the comments that you guys are saying. And Max, man, yeah, I'm with you, man. The Anderson spot there was hilarious, indeed. It was hilarious. And the other point that you had mentioned, which was about, see if I can pull that up again, about Magnus and Braum. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. We've seen this go on. Woo, we've seen this go on for about, it feels like maybe almost a month and a half now, that Braum has just been, you've gone soft, mate, you know, and it's kind of like, where's the payoff? Where is the big payoff? You know, I thought for a moment there the big payoff was possibly going to be Magnus taking on Brahm in some type of a match, maybe as early as Slammiversary, you know, but I don't know exactly where this is going. Very concerned about it, though. You know, on our Tuesday night edition of the RCWR show, we were talking about how TNA Wrestling is doing as far as selling tickets for their New York City events that's going to be coming up later this month. And you know, they haven't even sold out half the arena, at least last time I had checked. And the last time I had checked, it was about maybe a couple of days ago. I mean, I can check again right now for you guys, but I'm very concerned about this because just feel me on this for a second. TNA Wrestling has not sold out one of their New York events yet, and they're already promoting their events in August. I heard from some buddies that's in the New York area as well as some colleagues in the New York area that TNA Wrestling, like the advertising that they're paying for right now, that like the radio spots and all that, it's basically promoting their New York City events that's happening in August. And I can't help but stress this enough. It's like, wait a minute, you haven't even sold out the events for June, not even one. And you're already moving on to August. And like last time I had checked, they didn't even have like half the arena filled up yet. Now I'm actually on Ticketmaster right now as I'm talking to you guys, and I'm actually getting ready to pull up a map for the events that's going to be coming up in June at that Manhattan Center Grand Ballroom. Now I'm looking at Wednesday, the 25th right now of June, and I got the map loading up right now, and let's see how this bad boy looks right here. We'll see if it's sold out or what. Let's see. June 25th is the first one. So let's click on that real quick. Bear with me here, guys. And while I got that loading up, let me just move that out the way. All right. And let's see what we got right here. Boom. All right. So for June 25th, the way it is looking right now, now I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because it's been a couple of days. Maybe they're sold out. We'll see. Guys, you got to see the image that I'm seeing right now on Ticketmaster for day one of TNA Wrestling being at the old Hammerstein Ballroom here. They don't even have half the damn arena sold out yet. And there's still actually some pretty damn good seats around ringside right now. So that's not good. Let's see how day two is doing, which is going to be on June 26th. Same venue. Maybe that is filled up. You know, maybe they sold out for that date. Let's see what happens right here. And we got that loading up right now. Survey says... Wait a minute. Survey says... Day two, they don't even have half the seats sold out. There's actually more vacant seats on day two as opposed to day one. And if I'm not mistaken, day two is supposed to be Destination X. And they did not start dubbing it Destination X until earlier this week. So they need to get the ball moving for that free pay-per-view event. They need to pull out all the stops and really plug the hell out of that one. Let's check out their last date, which is going to be for Friday, June 27th. See if we can pull that up. Maybe that one sold out. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe in the end they did get one of these events sold out. Maybe they got all the seats taken care of. You never know. My fingers are crossed right here. They're actually crossed. It's loading up right here. Survey says... Let's see here. Looks about the same. Day three almost looks identical to day one. Not even half sold out from what I see. It looks like it could almost be there. If I were to compare to the 3 days, it actually looks like that Friday date did a little bit better than the other 2 days. So, I mean, this is what I was talking about on Tuesday night. It's like they really got to go out there and they got to promote. And I mean, from what I'm hearing in the New York City area, they're already promoting the August events. That's like their priority now. And it's like, no, that shouldn't be your priority. Your priority should be promoting these events you got coming up in June. And, speaking as somebody that's a Ring of Honor fan, speaking as somebody that's been an ECW fan, speaking as somebody that saw Shane Douglas or Steve O'Neill's Extreme Reunion promotion come through there and everything, and they were working their magic or whatever. I mean, they've had some really good turnouts at that daggone venue. Pretty much sold out. And it's like, TNA, you're having that much of a hard time. For Christ's sake, Ring of Honor was just out there. What was the pay-per-view event that they were out there for, guys? Was it for their War of the Worlds or something like that? And I actually finally got a DVD copy of that too, so I'm actually going to be checking that out to review, because some of you guys had requested if I go back and would check it out for you guys. So I'm actually going to be reviewing that for you all this weekend. But yeah, man, I'm really concerned about that. I'm really hoping that going forward they do a better job in promoting these events that they got, because I mean, there's just no excuse right here. I mean, you got Ring of Honor that doesn't even have the type of money that TNA Wrestling has with the whole Panda Energy and all that other stuff. They don't have an open wallet like that, and they were able to go there many times over the years at that Hammerstein Ballroom, and they were able to sell it out pretty damn well. So I don't know, man. One more time, we'll get a look at you guys' comments, see if you guys are saying anything new right here before we shut it down for tonight. I do thank you guys for staying up a little bit late with us as we went into a little bit of overtime here. Looks like that's it. If you guys are saying some stuff, I won't know about it until I shut this bad boy down. But hey, heads up, quick programming note. We got the weekend edition of the RCWR show, which you'll be able to catch this Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern over on blogtalkradio.com. We're going to be going all over the place, hook you guys up with the very latest fallout from Ring of Honor. We'll be talking NXT, OVW. We'll also hook you guys with the very latest in wrestling entertainment headlines. You know how we do it on that weekend edition, so make sure that you join us for that. For all the latest on wrestling news and beyond, as the fun might be over since we're off the air, but it continues on. We got episodes available for you all to check out on the downloads. You know the links. Check it all out. We got everything hooked up in the About section of this episode, giving you guys all the links. Represent. We got a new store that's up now where you can get some cool merchandise. Take a look-see. Got a little bit of something for everybody. New logos, all that cool stuff, man. So go check it out. Represent. Show your ultimate support for us. And remember, you can listen to us a number of ways, man. We're all over the place. Again, go to the links below. And that's pretty much going to do it. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. Make sure you give this piece a thumbs up. You can retweet this, Facebook it, Google Plus it, one of the many ways you can spread a good word about us. And that is going to do it. Until I see you guys next go round, please, everybody, be safe. And most importantly, be kind to one another. I'll see you next go round. Everybody, take care.